Since I can remember, Nintendo has had a problem with the power level of their systems, even back in the day when it was the SNES versus the Genesis. Genesis does what Nintendo don't, right? Yeah, now Nintendo still makes systems, but Sega don't. But yeah, it's always been the common knock. Even me myself, I've often judged the, again, power levels, I guess we'll call it, the capabilities of Nintendo's hardware. Sometimes you get the Wii or the 3DS, mega successes, but also sometimes you get the Wii U. Nintendo has proven that a system's power is certainly not the sole determining factor in the success of that system, but it obviously plays some role. So now we have the Switch, and like always, the power of the system is a major concern. Not just in terms of the games it can run today, but also in terms of longevity. How many games will it be able to run as time goes on? And like I mentioned, I'm aware of the 3DS. If there is money to be made on a system, people will make games for it until those games stop making money, of course. But the Switch is interesting because apparently I had no idea what it was capable of when just last week we learned that Doom 2016 and the upcoming Wolfenstein New Order are both making their way to the Switch. I was certainly shocked by that. But we don't know what sort of compromises these games are going to have to make to be able to run on the system. And in terms of the system's power, that is more of my concern, honestly. How much is going to have to be tweaked to get a game running on the Switch? We already have the Nintendo tax in effect, right, with a lot of these games. So obviously, devs aren't going to want to work too hard when porting a game unless they're pretty sure at least that they're going to make the money back. And what about the gamers? I believe that's a concern. How much are they willing to compromise? Like again, this Doom port. I haven't seen anything official, but I would assume 720p, 30 frames per second. I would love it to be 60. The game looks awesome on the Xbox One, PS4, and PC, obviously. You could shoot the frame rate as high as you want on PC, but at the higher frame rate, the game looks great. But to play the game on the go, personally, I'm willing to compromise that better frame rate. But how many other people are? And what if it was way worse? Like, what if the game releases and it's choppy, feels more like 20 frames per second? Are people going to want to play that? And that's something that's really up to the developers to test. But yeah, in terms of getting games running, my biggest concern is those compromises. You know, how many have to be made, how much work has to go into it, and how does that affect the product that the consumer ends up getting? And if the Switch was more powerful, not only would games like this be easier to port with less sacrifices have to be made, but bigger, more complex games would also be possible. Two of my absolute most anticipated upcoming games are Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption 2 and CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077. I don't think these games even have a snowball's chance in hell at coming to the Switch, but if it were more powerful, certainly porting these games would be more possible. I think that ease of porting is a major determining factor combined with those sacrifices. Like maybe they could get the games running at 480p with a steady 15 frames per second or something, but then who's going to want to even play that? So sure, just raw power can fix a lot of problems, but the big negative to that, obviously, would be the cost. A more powerful system, as we're seeing with the PS4 and Xbox One with the X and the Pro, they cost more money. And with the Switch being portable, you gotta shrink all those components down, which costs even more money. I've already stated I think Microsoft is going to hurt with the Xbox One X costing $500 this holiday. And if Nintendo tried doing a price like that, or even $400 for a handheld, I don't think it would be selling nearly as well. And to understand that, you really have to put your head in the mindset of the more casual consumer. Sure, die-hard Nintendo fans probably would pay it, but we only make up a small percentage of that consumer base. Like, I'd honestly, legit, I don't know, probably do $700. I would probably pay $700 if I had a Switch and it could play all the third-party games that my Xbox One and PS4 play. But how many other suckers like me are actually out there? But the bright side of that is, as time goes on, the tech becomes cheaper, and we can see upgraded versions of these systems without much increased costs, if at all. And I'm sure we will see a more powerful super Switch, if you will, within the next 3 to 4 years. Especially if the current model continues to be successful, then they'll definitely want to continue that success a la the 3DS, which apparently is never going to die. So yeah, as of now, I don't see a more powerful Switch as a necessity, but Nintendo needs to continue to make moves that demonstrate this. Like, when we see releases like Doom and Wolfenstein, it makes us think like, oh, you know, the system actually is pretty powerful, maybe we don't need it. But things like this partnership with Bethesda need to continue. I'm sorry, but Bethesda did not just come out of nowhere and commit all of these games, Skyrim, Doom, and Wolfenstein 2 to the Switch before any of them even released so they can see how they performed. Something happened. I don't know if Nintendo made a move or someone from Bethesda approached them. I don't care, but we need more of this. Nintendo needs to keep selling the Switches. Actually, they need to start making enough of them to sell, which makes developers want to get in on it. Again, like the 3DS, at some point, it's hard to ignore that sort of install base. In my opinion, right now, the Switch is hot. It's the prime time to rebuild third-party relations. Sure, the Switch isn't the Xbox One or the PS4, but again, this support from Bethesda proves someone believes, at least Bethesda as a third party believes, there's money to be made on the Switch, and that's what will get the games on there. When developers see dollar signs, you get games. Simple enough. When people think they can make a bunch of money on your system, especially with games they've already made, with just some tweaking, they're going to bite. And if those games do well, you'll likely see more. And maybe some exclusives or things built with a Switch in mind. I mean, honestly, take Bethesda. If Skyrim, Doom, and Wolfenstein 2 all perform better than Bethesda is expecting on the Switch, these ports of past games, do you really think they're not going to at least consider making something in the future with the Switch in mind from the beginning? But yeah, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know if you think we need a more powerful Switch in the comments, or even when do you think we're going to need an upgrade? As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.